All right, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that very much. So what I want to do is kind of go through an overall kind of like a 10,000-foot view of where Scanco is for 2014. One of the things that we're really excited about is rolling out a series of mobile devices that allow the cost for what it would normally take to enter into the market a lot lower. So what that means is you can see here on our screen that we have some of our recommended hardware here, and just want to kind of go just a quick overview here. And you can see we have some devices from Motorola which are driven by Android. We have an old Intermex, a new Intermex scanner, CK3X, and also these Linea Pro and also Captuvo scan sleds, which allow you to take your iOS devices and put them in and give them scanning capabilities. And so what we've done this very recently is we launched our Scanco Cloud software, and that is a native connector application that has been launched in the Google Play Store as well as the iTunes App Store. And the exciting thing about that is that it's allowing the accessibility for these devices to be able to use in warehouse management. And the cost of entry is dramatically dropped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to, we have a device here that's connected to an iPod in the Linea scanner, and what I'm going to do is go through and give you kind of an idea of one of the most important transactions in the warehouse, and that is the receiving. So what I'm going to do is you can see here we have our user interface friendly application, and part of what we've done this year is with our development is to really make sure that our products, they have a very simple and very user intuitive interface, so that way when any of your warehouse employees are on the floor, they're able to know exactly what they need to do to get their transactions completed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the receiving button, and here I'm actually, there's multiple methods to enter in data into your Scanco warehouse application. One of those being manually typing it in using a lookup or using the scan sled. We have a Linea scanner scan sled, which was one of the ones we demoed there. So I'm going to go ahead and scan in my purchase order here. And you can see it's live validated with information from Sage 100, and it goes directly in to make sure that everything there is actually existing in the warehouse, so there's no errors. So then I'm going to scan in the item number, and you can see there the actual item that I've scanned has appeared here. You can see printer stand with basket as our item 6655. We have our unit of measurement, and then we're able to scan in our bin location. So we click there, we're going to enter a quantity of 1. I'm going to hit enter. And now we're allowed to go in and scan our next item right here, and then you can see again routine, there's the actual name of the item, description, unit of measurement, and then we're going to specify the bin location for that one, and so then a quantity there. So then when I hit send, it's going to give me an option to send and push this to the server. Now, the great thing about, see we have a success there. The great thing about this here is that all of our transactions are live validated with the server, like I mentioned before. And the benefits of being able to use iOS and Android and Windows devices is, like I said before, is opening up the ability for you to be able to lower the entry costs into the warehouse. So any of you who have inventory that you need to manage, whether you have barcodes already associated with the items in your warehouse, we have other options and add-ons available that will allow you to print directly from your handheld device to a mobile printer and give you that capability there. So if you're worried about how do I actually implement this, we are your warehouse consultants, so we can take care of everything from the ground up. So that concludes my portion there, and we can hand it over to Joe. Joe?
Yeah, I'm talking away. I have my mute button on. So this is Joe again from JDB Solutions Group. We're doing the manufacturing side of the product. Again, to add to what Cody says, we do the same thing. From devices, from a data collection standpoint, for manufacturing, we will be coming out with iOS here pretty soon. Probably within the next month, we're going to have some applications here that are going to be able to be iPad iPhone compatible and ready to go, so be prepared to be seeing that. We're also desktop, tablet, touch screen, Wi-Fi, whatever makes sense in your world to be capturing your manufacturing information from a shop floor standpoint, from a field service standpoint, remote crews, people in the field, service crews that are going out and doing service type work. If any of the above, if you need to collect the data, we have basically any device that will work for your data collection needs. Basically what we do is we are the shop floor side of things. As you can see from our software, for people that have seen it before, we have everything from material issues, labor tracking, material completions, that type of thing. And what we can do is we do all the shop floor data collection system and we roll it into mass. So to give you an idea how this works, anybody, whether you have a mobile device, inside the shop, outside the shop, if you want to issue materials, whatever the case may be, you click on your material issue, you would go ahead, scan your traveler or your work order or whatever you're scanning from. You scan your inventory items. During material issues, you can see what you're pulling, any bin locations with multi-bin integration, which you'll see with Ron soon. You'll be able to pick from specific bin locations, changing warehouses, changing units of measure, seeing what you have. Because the system's dynamic, you'll know where you are in the issuing process from that standpoint. So you'll be able to issue material and do everything on the fly. We have electronic document options for those of your customers, those of you that want to reference things electronically. Now you don't need big paper packets. We're making it even more mobile and more electronics to reference them remotely and from devices. So basically scanning transactions is as simple as scanning your job, scanning your inventory item, entering quantities, even distributing product, lotted or serialized components is that simple. So as you can see, your transactions are very smooth and easy to use. Basically, we have material issues, we have labor tracking. So for those of you that are looking at tracking labor, maybe you think it's too hard or whatever, some people are doing it manually now. Scanning labor is as simple as scanning a badge, scanning a work ticket, tracking in, and later on when you inevitably track out, you can scan your badge, scan back into your job, and you're tracking out. As you can see, there's a lot of other cool things you could be doing during this period. We could be tracking machines and work centers, quantities, step completes. We're actually going to be adding statuses here very soon with the integration of manufacturing automation with ACS. So that's going to be really big for a lot of your manufacturing customers. Basically what this is doing is setting up the ability for you to be watching your shop floor, maintaining it easier, getting more direct information, more real-time information. So again, scanning your users is as simple as scanning the badge, scanning the job you're tracking in on, hitting accept, making it very simple. We have live dashboards, so as you're scanning along, you could be seeing what people are doing. The whole shop floor monitoring system is live and dynamic now, making both work order, job ops all dynamic from a shop floor standpoint. So at any given time, you have the abilities of editing, deleting, removing, checking information, following up, or just simply monitoring. So those are your labor transactions, very simple and smooth. The last transaction most people want to do, material completions from a work order standpoint, very simply scan your work order, enter how many pieces that you're going to complete, and you hit accept. Those are completions. Now you're going to notice that we have a bunch of things now with material completions that we can do that you just couldn't do with work order. We have the ability of scrapping. Now if you want to, we can scrap by step, we have scrap codes, so it's making your scrapping transactions way easier. You can also be not only capturing and completing product, you could be printing labels out, so you could be tagging your finished goods products so you know where they are, putting them on shelves, ready to go, ready to be used in either inventory or another make to order status or shipping. So if you're getting ready to send it out the door, you can be printing labels for that. We can close work orders. We can enter weights, stuff like that for completions. We can also do palleting. So like if you're doing certain pallets, whether you're using pallet tracking with ACS, which you'll be seeing here in a little bit, or you just want to just mark your tags, or you have multiple products on a pallet, we'll work with all the above, and you can capture and keep track of all that as well. So it really starts to open your completion transactions up too. And just to show you, we'll do a scrap transaction so people can see how easy it is to scrap, because that's usually a question. How do we scrap? Pick scrap. We could pick a scrap code, whatever the case may be, how many pieces we're scrapping, and we hit accept. So as you can see, those transactions are pretty big, pretty easy, and now a lot faster into mass. As you can see, we did all our transactions. These can be done at any given time. What's awesome about the system is you could be issuing material at any given point through your manufacturing process. You could be tracking labor at any given time through your process, completing through your process. Okay? Now it's not just do one step at a time or back flush or wait till the end or whatever. We can now make your transactions more dynamic, more user-friendly, better flow for your production staff, your supervisors, and even your purchasing guy is going to love you because now you're actually issuing material when you should be and not 2 weeks later. We have other cool features. We can batch material issue and batch labor track for those of you that have really detailed customer needs. We can do that stuff like dilution and all that kind of thing. We have QC modules, which is really cool. We can capture QC information through your manufacturing for your manufacturing process, or not necessarily QC, but any manufacturing information needed to be collected and attached to either a person, a job, a parent item, a work center, an opcode, a date and time stamp, a lot or serial, literally anything we can link back into your ERP, into the manufacturing side for QC transactions. It's all open. You can run reports. We can link QC transactions to completions. We can link it to other transactions if you want to really be able to get control of your manufacturing process. So it's a really nice tool to be adding on your shop floor. We have Timecard modules, which is really nice also if you don't have a good Timecard system. Not only do we have Timecard where you can punch in and out for payroll, but we also have a whole employee scheduling module where we can have employees shift lunch punching, auto rounding, shift control, days of the week they work, how we want to round them. So we have a whole time card system as well, which is a really nice feature to use. And basically all wrapping it up to these big, huge shop floor monitors. These are live dashboards to your floor. You can be watching what's going on. Instead of going to a terminal and looking, you can sit back and watch on your shop floor monitoring screen. Now the questions that everybody asks you, or you hear from your customers, or you're wondering yourself, where is that job? Where is it on the floor? Who's working on it? Are we done with it yet? How many pieces have we completed? What do we got going on today? What's coming down the line next? All these questions that you hear on your shop floor every day now can be answered if you have a live dashboard. If I can literally see who's tracked in on what on a job on the floor, I know where that job is. I can look to see where people are. I can look to see where jobs are. I could be filtering, looking where specific machines or work centers or areas in my building for capacity or what's going on there. We can actually see what we've issued on the shop floor. We could be watching our completions. We could be monitoring, looking for scrap transactions, right? Well, instead of waiting till the end and trying to find out where things are, we now can be proactive, watching it live as it's happening. And even changing or editing if we make mistakes. We realize there's mistakes on the floor. Not only can we be monitoring this stuff, but we can be changing it too. We could be fixing problems, punching people out, fixing start and stop times, adjusting issues, fixing completion transactions. So you have the ability now of literally taking control of your manufacturing floor, watching it, and all the people that spend hours a day walking around looking for things now can pretty much sit on their desk, or we can give them a nice iPad or a tablet, and they can walk around and start monitoring it real time. So not only do we have dashboards, we also have the people that go, hey, we want these big 47-inch monitors out on the floor, these big shop floor monitoring screens. We can start implementing those as well. The other thing that we have the ability of doing for some hot topics, because I have a couple minutes left and I want to make sure you guys get a full information, we also can now start tracking outside processing, or if you're doing stuff from a field service standpoint, your people out in the field capturing their material issues. Maybe they're in a van, or maybe they're in field service, or they're Home Depot, they're buying things. We can be capturing material issues. We can be tracking their labor, time it's spent on a job, their tracking or their travel time. We could be tracking that kind of stuff. We can be capturing payroll remotely if we want to. All this stuff from a mobile device, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or a notebook or a tablet, they could be capturing it from a field service standpoint. and automatically syncing it. All we either need is a Wi-Fi or a cellular connection. If the device they're using is cellular, we can start communicating. So now we can really start to open up your customers to more remote abilities from a field service or service standpoint. Okay? And for outside processing, we have the ability of tracking outside processing. So we can be tracking things out when it leaves the building, knowing who's got what, where, when, why, and how. With the integration of ACS, ACS has a manufacturing automation piece where you can actually cut purchase orders, track outside processing, keep all that stuff equipped and all in work order, track it through your shop floor data collection system to know when it left the building, when it came back. So there's a full line of complete manufacturing tools that we can help you with. I hope that you've got a lot of information, a lot of good questions, and if you have any other questions, please let me know. But now I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to ACS, and they'll be able to take care of their side of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm switching onto my screen. It is early here. Today, I'd like to talk about a little bit about multi-bin inventory and continue off for everything what you've seen. We sort of are referred to as the engine of everything because we track where the Mass 90 inventory is in your warehouse. We know where the inventory is, what inventory to ship, and where to put it. So right now I'm looking at one of my inventory items here, and you can see I have my inventory in different bin locations, and I have different location types. We might have primary bin locations. Not all businesses need it. Some do, and some like to pick from there exclusively. So we have options in order to do that. If I were to go into the setup of this, I can see that I have a primary bin location of A20L. I can set minimums and maximum amounts that I would like in that bin location for that item and do replenishment reporting periodically or throughout the day. One of the nice things that we do is you can have a primary bin location that might be primary bin locations for your items that are next to the shipping dock. Some customers might move that inventory from one location to another, or the inventory is gone, and so that one area you might use for another item. So we have a new feature which allows you to move the inventory to one location to another, and the new location will be also assigned as a primary bin location. Here I just moved inventory from one location to another from in the primary area, and the system automatically kept track of it. That way the system is really moving the way you do in the warehouse. Maybe you want to ship from those locations first because it's next to the shipping dock. Here too, now where I'm looking at regular pick locations, I might have inventory in any other pick locations. Many businesses don't have primary bin locations and just receive goods, put goods where they can, and move on. The pick locations are great means, and our pick designation is a great means for that. You can have overflow locations. We use overflow locations to help the system to ship maybe larger orders, or some businesses like to put goods away to the overflow area first and then rotate inventory into the regular pick area or into their primary bin locations. We have staging locations. Staging locations are set up by warehouse. They help group inventory for regular functions like receipt of goods, production, quality control, returns. So just to bounce off of what you've already seen from Scanco and WOScan, they receive goods and they produce goods or they completed goods. We provide a put away system that looks at the best place to put your goods, whether you have staging locations for receiving or production or what have you. If I can select a given warehouse, I can view some of the detail here of how the system analyzes it. It looks at the capacity of your locations. Now this is all part of directed put away, and it looks to see of those goods that are in my receiving dock and where to put it. I can put options in the system to be very specific, perhaps for certain reasons. Maybe I have inventory that's coming in from a purchase order or that I produced in work order that's for certain orders, and it will tell me to put it into a staging location just for those orders or for those customers. And what you see here, I have designations that I can maybe put it by aisle. Last time I received goods into that aisle is an option in the system. Here it's shipping back orders because I have lack of inventory. I don't care to put it away into any bin location. I want to just put it in the shipping dock and get those orders out the door. And here's designation for ID type. That's saying that I've received pallets or case packs, and maybe I have specific bin locations just for those kind of containers. And so we have setups that will accommodate that and direct a good put away for that. So that's directed picking or directed put away. And then what we also do really well is directed picking. Directed picking is the ability for the system to calculate the best goods to ship out for your orders, and we have options in the system. By the way, if I'm talking fast, it's because we only have a certain amount of time, so I apologize in first. So it's always a good idea to listen to these recordings later, too. So here in the setup of the system, I can look at options that could be company-wide, and you can override these for certain product lines and certain items that you want that works for you. So I could deplete my inventory in primary bin locations. I can deplete inventory out of my pick locations in other locations based on certain algorithms, perhaps maybe by the lot number, which is very good for lot serial items, or perhaps by when I first last received goods into a bin location. And that's really good for goods that are non-lot serial items. We have options here that work in the real world, like when you don't want to pick from staging locations because maybe they're like a receiving dock or a shipping dock or a staging location because you just produce goods in there. And so we have these options and ways of prioritizing picks. The system optimizes picks for pallets, case packs, to optimize the best case packs to get out the door to your customers. You might have a sundry of case packs that you have, like case packs of 3, 6, 12, 50, 100, or pallets in any quantity, and the system can automatically calculate the best combination for any given order. What I want to take you through now is the ability to do directed picking. I can select some orders. This is one way of doing it. I could just really print pick sheets with what's called our wave batch shipping control. It looks at options that I might have in the sales order, and in fact, I could take you into one sales order and view some of the options. You have the ability to designate orders as ship complete if you want to give a priority and say, I really want to get this one out today. And you can have pick priorities by customer, A, B, C, D customers. All my customers are A's. What I can do is I can designate certain fill rates. Maybe I want to fill orders that are due today, and today's 4/3/2014. It'll go out there, select all my orders, and it's prioritizing the inventory that's divvying up between these customers. And you can see here by different fill rates, and it's matching it. If I were to click into the log, I can see some of the criteria that it's looking at. Could not ship an order with 92%, and that's because this one order was set as a ship complete, and it's telling me where I came up short on inventory on that one order. And then there's other information here. So we always try to alert you of any information that would help you understand what orders weren't selected, or if they were selected, if they didn't meet the certain fill rates. There's other things too. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and include all these orders in my batch. I can print all my pick sheets. It's going to do a hard allocation of the inventory for all these orders. And now I can go ahead and print all the pick sheets for this one batch. Here, as you can see, for this first order, number 178, it's earmarked 3 different case packs, 111, and there are different lot numbers in these particular case packs. It prioritized it, I believe, by the lot number. In this example here, it pulled inventory first. It depleted inventory out of my primary bin locations first, and then it grabbed some other inventory because there was no more left in the primary bin location, so it went over and got some more inventory out of that particular bin location. This one here is able to get all its inventory exclusively out of primary bin locations. And this one over here is doing much of the same. Here, this is a large order, and it was able to calculate that to pull 3 pallets, 1 master pack, and then 5 eaches out of my primary bin location. So I can, as you can see, I can have my inventory spread out, and if I choose, the system can calculate the best combinations for my customers. If you have case packs and those sort of things, it can go a long way. There's another one. This is a order specific for a customer. I have inventory reserved just for this customer. And this is in the for customer ABC. It's reserved the inventory out of there. It's because it perhaps production just finished it and put it into that location for that particular customer. So what I could do now that I've allocated this information, and the information's not only on the pick sheets, but it's also accessible on the handheld. So the handheld can walk you through the warehouse. You can pick your goods with the ScanCo handheld, and then if you choose to, you can stage it to like a shipping dock or what have you. So what I'd like to do now, oh, and by the way, this is a wave pick sheet. Wave pick sheet is accumulation of everything I did. So perhaps, you know, you want to group it by customer or for all the orders for the day, maybe, or you're just doing filling all your back orders. You can, what have you, you can do a wave pick sheet where you can go picking your inventory too. In this particular case, it's by bin location. So if I were to go to the setup for a bin location, I can see some of the setup there. And I would look at this inventory here. This was inventory that was allocated to this given order, and you can see that it's reserved for that. What I could do is I can transfer this inventory now from one location to another. I can accumulate that information onto a pallet and what have you. Perhaps if I have something else over here, I can show an example of accumulating. So in this case, I have some inventory, 2 different lots and 2 different case packs. I can select this and select that. I can choose to create a new pallet, do a next number here, and I'll just put it into the receiving bin location. And now when I move that inventory, it will go ahead and accumulate all that, those 2 case packs into that pallet. If I were to drill down to the pallet, I can see all the inventory, and this one's been beat up a little bit. There's a little bit in here, but we try to give you a good view of your inventory, detailed on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side is accumulation. Oops, I grabbed the wrong one there, but you can see that it's embedded IDs, so you can have case packs embedded into pallets, and then you can, if you're moving this inventory around or selling it, all you have to do is grab this wine ID and move it around. We do a unique thing by categorizing your inventory, but what we call a case ID type. And there's a little bit of inventory over here, but you can see over here on the left-hand side, you can see I have 1 pallet on hand. I have 670 eaches out in my staging locations. Over here in overflow, I have a number of these pallets, these 3 that are 0. There's none available because they've been earmarked on probably on sales orders. 320, or each of those pallets have 320 each. Here in the pick area, I have some master packs and so on. But we always give you a drill down so you can get to it and so on. And then there's always these controls that we provide on most screens to where you can drill down to information, whether it be an ID or if you want to transfer inventory from one location to another. This is the new feature. It's called Group Transfer. And so what we specialize in is we enhance the Mass 90 system, Sage 100 system, so that you have the seamless multi-bin inventory, full directed picking features to help automate and improve the way you pick, and then full directed put away features to help you put your goods away. So what I'd like to do now is pass on to ScanCo, and they'll talk some more. Thank you very much for coming.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ron. That was nice to see all those exciting features that we can add onto the Sage 100 system. So this is Cody, and for those wondering why the change of voice, that was actually Devin that was presenting for ScanCo earlier. So now that we're going to go through, kind of pick up where Ron left off. So what we're going to do is take you through some of the transactions that he showed, but we're going to show you how we do that from the handheld. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up that handheld again. You'll see our iPod here on the screen, and you'll notice some of the transactions that Ron was talking about, the shipping, the picking, transfers. The one good thing about the ScanCo solution is that we fully integrate into those features that Ron was speaking about. So for those bin-to-bin transfers, we can do that through our transfer app. For the inquiry, we can look up items and see all the bins that reside in. I can scan a bin location and see all the items that are in that bin. We have our picking, which is really the main feature of this webinar. And what we're going to do is show you the directed pick based on bin location. So I'm going to go on into that picking application. You'll see it's asking for the warehouse. I'll just do a lookup, choose which warehouse we're in, and here's where I do that staging bin. So this is where Ron was talking about the different bin classifications. This is where I tell it which bin this order is going to be staged to. All I need to do is scan that bin location and tell it which sales order. So when I scan my sales order, one thing you'll notice is it says that I have one order added. So one thing I can do is tend to that wave pick that Ron was talking about. I can add more than one order to this, and it will actually group those together. That way, when I add a specific bin location, it'll tell me, you need to pick this item for this sales order and this item for this sales order because they're both in this bin location. So it makes that picking a lot more efficient and allows your order pickers to get more orders processed in a day and also have a lot, fewer errors. That way those items going to the customers are correct. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit Start Pick. When I hit Start Pick, you'll see it displays all the information relevant to picking that order. It's going to tell me the sales order. It's going to tell me the bin location that I need to walk over to. And then it's going to tell me which item it wants me to scan, as well as the description and unit of measurement. So all I need to do is scan that item. It validates that I scanned the correct item and tells me how many I need to ship. So I can put in the quantity I'd like to ship. We'll go ahead and ship that complete, the quantity of 4. And now you'll see it says go to this bin location and scan item 6655. So it takes those bin locations and, in a logical order to walk me through the warehouse just once and collect all those items. We'll scan the item, gives us our quantity to ship, which we'll go ahead and do 6 again. We'll hit enter. And one thing that this is going to do, you'll notice, unlike the receiving, I did not have to actually hit send. It knows that I have completed this order, and at that point, it's going to put that into Sage and allow me to track that as a picked order. I'm going to go ahead and click no. That way I can just kind of run back through here and really, kind of slow this down and show you some of the really cool design features that we wanted to incorporate. I'm sure a lot of you have seen, some scanning solutions out there for Sage 100, and you've probably seen the user interfaces. So one thing that ScanCo wanted to do when we came out with this new cloud-based solution is we wanted to make sure that it was, it was new, it was something, a little more out of the box. And what we did for our user interface is kind of what I call like a waterfall effect. So you'll notice our screen is basically empty to start with. So when I started that first transaction, I have one piece of information. So that guy in the warehouse, he doesn't have to look all over the screen and go, okay, where do I go next? He knows he needs to put in the warehouse. So he puts in the warehouse, the next piece of information pops up, it's highlighted in red, so now he knows he needs a staging location. So when we scan a staging location and we continue through with this information, it's going to, of course, it's going to show that that hasn't been found because we just shipped it. When we have a line that doesn't need information, you'll notice that that's actually in a lighter colored font. That means that's just information we're displaying that we don't need that user to enter. So it's there for his reference, but he knows it's nothing that he needs to collect into the system. So once we, take this wave pick and that directed pick and we send it into Sage, we can, track those orders. We can let our customers know, the status of the order when they call in. We can let them know what items we're waiting on, what items are back ordered, exactly where that is in that process of being shipped out. Once once we're at the point where we need to ship that order out and it's actually leaving the warehouse, that's where we're going to utilize our other features. So we'll use shipping data entry or invoice data entry depending on your current process and what makes the most sense for your organization. And I'm just going to show you real quick kind of the shipping data entry. And this is where we actually take it from that staging location and we're processing that order through. You'll see, once again, it just asks for that one piece of information, which is going to be my shipper ID. I can scan that from an employee badge or just manually enter it. And we can scan our sales order. It's going to validate, of course, that is a proper sales order. And this is now going to allow me to pick those items from that staging location and get those out the door. This is what essentially is creating that shipping data entry. So we're going to go ahead and scan the first item. So where we tell it which bin, of course, if it's going to auto-populate whether it's a primary bin or a pick bin, if there is staging bins in play for that item, of course, that will be there as well. So you'll see the lookup shows all of them that are on hand. So we just put the bin in and the quantity. Now we can scan our next item. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on that bin. And I'm going to go ahead and just say that only 3 of these will fit into this box. I hit enter. And now I'm going to take advantage of the package level detail within shipping data entry. And I'm going to hit the next box button on the screen. And now you'll see I'm packaging box number 2. So that allows me to, capture that information to send into shipping data entry and give me the, the proper packing list and the proper information to send into Starship as we're doing the manifesting. So we'll just scan our item, confirm the bin location. You'll see I've already shipped 3, so I'm going to go ahead and ship the remaining 3. One of the things that we have, of course, is a check in place. If there is not enough in the bin location, it's going to tell us. That way, you're not, when you're using multi-bin, your inventory is kind of all over the place. So it's telling me there's none in that bin location. That way, I know I'm not trying to take my net inventory into the negative. I'm not doing something that shouldn't be done. So at this point, I can go into the bin location. I could do a lookup on that bin location. So when I do the lookup, it's going to show me all of the bins that's in. Since it's 4 on hand, obviously I was trying to ship 6, so that's not going to happen. So I would need to find, a different bin that's in. When I do that lookup, here's all my quantities. So of course I can choose a different bin location. And now I can continue shipping those items. So I ship those items, we send it in, and at that point, it goes into that shipping data entry, and that's where Starship is going to pick up. So we have that efficiency, we have that live validation. Everything that's been put in that box for that order is exactly what the customer ordered. So we have, proof of what was in the box if they say they didn't get something. So everything's there. And then at this point is where Caroline would pick up. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that over to Caroline, and she'll take you through the Starship side. All right, Caroline.
Thanks, Cody. So once you do the pick and the pack using the ScanCo handhelds, at that point, like Cody said, you'll be ready to actually ship your packages out the door. So what I'm going to do is just show you the Starship user interface and processing those packages that were scanned in using the ScanCo handhelds. So in this case, we're going to be shipping against an order that was packed up, and I just went out and retrieved that information. You'll see in the left-hand area here is just a preview of the shipment. Starship will bring over all the ship to information, translate the ship via, as well as any other shipment details such as billing type. If you're billing sender or recipient, we can automate that process as well. In this instance, we are shipping to a Canadian address here, so this is an international shipment. And I'm just going to drill into my items down here, my boxes, so that we can kind of look into the packages and the items that we're shipping in this instance. And if I drill into the item here, you'll be able to see all the item level detail about this item that's located in this box. And by using the handheld devices, this actually helps on the shipping side, because now your shipper doesn't have to manually enter in or define these boxes. It's all coming from the information that's being updated in the Sage database. So for international shipments, that's one instance where we can actually utilize the line item detail. So you'll see that this two-drawer filing cabinet here, when I bring it up on the line item tab, that there's some international data in this bottom right-hand corner of the tab here. And if I drill into that, you'll see all the international specific information about this item. So many times this type of shipping information may not be standard inside of the inventory data of your Sage 100 system. So you have a couple of options. You can either use our customized interface feature to modify the default field maps and translations. By doing that, you can access user-definable fields that you may have, that you may already be using. Or you can store this information in Starship's database. And as Starship pulls the shipment in from Sage 100, it'll also fold in this additional detail to give you a more complete picture of your shipment. With international, a lot of times you'll need that Schedule B or their harmonized code. So we can associate that to the item to help minimize the amount of data entry that your shippers are doing. In addition to grabbing this line item information, on the international tab here, you'll also see some information that relates specifically to the international portion of the shipment. One thing I wanted to bring your attention to is the EEI filing. So if anybody needs to file on aesdirect.gov, which means that you're just letting the government know which exports you're sending out, and you only have to do that under certain circumstances. But if you do have to do that, Starship can also automate that piece by allowing you to push that information over to the AES Direct site, so that you don't have to manually enter in all of your commodity level information. In addition, you could, if you wanted to, also have the carrier file on your behalf. If you do that, of course, the carrier will be charging you to file on your behalf, but you have options to do both. Some of the other things that we'll be bringing over that I wanted to bring your attention to, on the Shipment tab here, you'll notice that I have email notification checked. So Starship will send out the emails and can send branded emails to your recipients so that you can customize the email that's going out instead of using the carrier notification. But in this instance, you'll notice here that I'm also setting my exception notification. So this would be the notification that would be coming from the carrier to notify you of any problems with the shipment, maybe due to weather or something of that nature. And if I drill into that, you'll notice here that I'm associating the salesperson on this order to this exception notification. So that'll allow your salespeople to be proactive about contacting your customers if anything should happen. So you have the ability to do a combination of Starship's email notification for the outbound shipment notification, as well as continuing to utilize the carrier's notifications for those inbound type of emails, which would be the delivery or the exception. I can also rate shop this shipment, and what Starship will do is to go out to all the carriers that I have loaded in my system and come back with the rates for all of those. Starship does support a combination of small parcel as well as LTL, and you'll see a combination here of those. So I have UPS, Post Office, Conway, Old Dominion, happens to be LTL shipments here. And Starship will rate these on the carrier's servers with your be able to show you your contract rates, which is the negotiated rate that you've negotiated with the carrier. You can also see list rates from here if you wanted to, so you could take a look and see list rates for the various carriers. If you wanted to drill into information about this carrier and this charge, you can drill in here and see that there's a freight charge, there's a fuel surcharge, and also in this case I have my multi-weight pricing being applied, so I'm getting a little discount here. You can also have Starship auto-select carrier and service based on your conditions. So you can set that up to maybe if you want it to go cheapest or fastest, And that way your shipper doesn't have to, do the rate shopping manually and then select. You also have user roles and permissions. So if you didn't want your shipper to be able to modify the ship via, either the one that was translated from the order or the one that was automatically selected by Starship, you can set that up as well. So all we really have to do right now is do a ship and process. Starship will process the shipment with the carrier, also generate the barcoded shipping labels and any packing lists that you may want, as well as updating the Sage document in real time. So if we take a look at this, this is just the shipping label plus the packing list. We call it the smart label, which would be printed onto an 8.5 by 11 sheet with the shipping label being part of the die cut area here. In this instance, if you're using ScanCo in conjunction with Starship, now you're going to also see the benefit here with the packing list, where all the information that was scanned in using the handheld would be specific to this particular package, and you would see that we've shipped 2 of these items in this box and a couple more in this one. Starship can also print out the international documentation that would be associated. So here's the commercial invoice. The top of the commercial invoice is going to be your header level information that's coming in from the order. And then the body of the document would be the commodity level information that we're bringing in from the items on the order. Here's a certificate of origin, similar document here for international. And now I'm ready to process my next shipment. So let me just go back into Sage and show you how that information got updated. I'm going to go into shipping data entry here and bring up that order that we just processed. And if I go into the shipping tab here, you'll be able to see this tracking tab. And now you'll see that the tracking information is updated automatically so that you have that information for your customer service reps. Also, Starship can email this information out to your customers, and I'll show you that in a second. In addition, you have the ability to update the freight charge. This freight charge it's defined by you as either your contract rate, which is your negotiated rate, or you can use the list rate as a base, or you can actually do a calculation as a base if you wanted to. Starship also has freight rules, which allows you to conditionally define how and when the freight gets updated on the order invoice. So if you wanted to maybe do a flat dollar amount for your freight charge based on the order total, you can do that. If you wanted to change percents, maybe a different handling fee percentages based on the customer type, you can do that as well. So the conditions can be based on your Sage fields. And as I mentioned earlier, Starship will send out that email notification. Let me just hit refresh here so that we can see what that email looked like as a result of the shipment. So here's this, the order that we shipped, 217, just an example of an email that I just created. It has our logo. The nice thing about the email notifications that Starship can send is, one, we can send them in real time. So as you're shipping, these can be sent out to your customers so that they know, hey, it's already on its way over to me. The other thing is if you're using ScanCo in conjunction with Starship, you will have the ability to see and provide your users or customers with the package to item level detail. And while I had everybody on the line, I also just wanted to quickly show you one of the new features that we've added, which is the ability to do a rate quote from within sales order. This functionality comes standard with your Starship license. It doesn't require a Starship user seat. It just gives your front office personnel access to the Starship rating engine from within MAS. So if you have salespeople that want to quote freight before the actual shipment, you can do that. I just brought up an order here. This could be any type of order, so it could be an estimate that you're working on. You'll notice here there's a little rate quote button on the header tab, and then on the lines tab, we've also added it here. If I click on this, the Starship web UI is going to come up with all the information from that order. So you'll see here the recipient, American Business Futures. I can actually hit this button here to validate the address from within this screen, in which case it'll validate against the post office, ZIP+4, as well as residential commercial. It's also getting all the items, it's accumulating the items and putting them into your default packaging here. I can add packages from here if I want to and build out a shipment. Or I can just hit Rate Shop and Starship will go out, or this little web UI will go out to the Starship rating engine, pull in all the various rate quotes for this particular shipment, this box weighing 14 pounds. And you'll see here I have a combination of list and contract. So this is the exact same data that you would see when you're in the shipping client. It's just being made available in the front office in a more simplified way because we're only showing those fields that impact the actual rate itself. So they don't really necessarily have to see all the details about the shipment to get a rate or an accurate rate. So the ship via will be translated here. I could change it if I wanted to, or I could just hit apply here, and you'll get the ability to prompt. You don't have to have this prompt. There are some settings around that, but you can have it prompt to write the freight back to the sales order, update the ship to address that was validated using the address validation, as well as the ship via that you selected. And then you can do your rate quotes ahead of time, and then in that instance you may or may not want to have Starship update the freight charges at the time of shipment, and you can definitely write conditions around that through using the freight rules in Starship. The last thing I just wanted to mention really quick is that we do have that dashboard that gives you access to all of your shipment history and data, metrics and reports from a little browser UI here. So if I wanted to drill in to see information about a metric and drill into the particular shipments that make that up, I can look in here and see the information about that shipment. I can track it from here. Because we're just updating all the standard SAGE fields, we try to take advantage of as many fields as there are to update, but there are definitely a lot of additional details about a shipment that we're not updating inside the SAGE database. So this gives you a nice way to access the data. Also doesn't use up any seat licensing. It just gives you a view of the Starship database through this UI, which is good for either front office employees or maybe management will want to see information on metrics. You can also run reports from here. A couple of the more popular reports that customers like to run, late deliveries report. This is where Starship will do a background track on all the shipments. When you run the late deliveries report, you'll run it for a certain date range, and then Starship will compare the guaranteed delivery date and time to the actual one and notify you of any discrepancies so that you can be proactive about getting your refunds. You can also see here the shipment charges comparison. So with that, what we're looking at is the freight charge that you sent back to the invoice versus what the carrier is charging you. And that way you can kind of get a handle on if you're making money on the freight or hopefully not losing it, but you definitely would be able to see that from this report. Okay, I think that's all I had on the Starship side. Adrian, I'm going to pass it back to you.